Born in a small Midwestern town of Fremont, Michigan, in 1948, the first word out of Frank Merril's mouth was horse.
I'll never forget the first time I ever got on a horse. I was 5 years old, and I thought, this is some kind of something. And I always wanted to be a cowboy. Secretly, I always wanted to ride a cutting horse. Because that was as close to being a cowboy as you could get.
After graduating from Michigan State University, Frank was bound for Texas, and Matlock Rose is where he found Miss Jim 45, the great halter mare he dreamt of finding.
When he no more than got her head and neck out of that stall, it was over for me. I immediately tried to figure out how I was going to come up with $25,000. She is undoubtedly the greatest mare that ever walked the earth.
As part of his payment for Miss Jim 45, Frank worked for Matlock, and it was at Matlock's where Frank rode his first cutting horse.
I was hanging on for dear life, and I had both knees up in the saddle, and I had, at the end of that night, I had the biggest blister on my hand you ever saw in your life. But I wasn't going to complain, and I wasn't going to let him know that that hand was burning like I was holding on to a hot poker. And it was the biggest thrill I ever had in my life.
Frank met his wife, Robin, then Robin Severinsen, at the All-American Quarter Horse Congress in 1969, and the couple married several years later. They have 3 grown children, daughters Mackenzie and Megan, and son Tyler, all of whom are heavily involved in the horse industry.
I was asked what was the most important thing in my life recently, and I'd have to say my family. There are 3 main components in my life, and it's God, family, and our friends. And the horses are right behind that.
The Merrils established Windward Stud in Purcell, Oklahoma, where together they managed one of the busiest stallion stations in the industry until the ranch sold in 2006.
You know, I made my living my whole life with stallions. Robin and I counted up the other day, I think we managed over 116 head of stallions in our lives. And I suppose if we counted all the mares that we've bred, not that we've owned, but that we took care of and that we bred to those stallions would probably be somewhere around 35,000 head of mares.
Frank attributes his 5 decades of involvement in the horse business to he and his family's tenacity to withstand the ups and downs. It's a lesson Frank learned many years ago at Matlock's from horseman George Tyler.
We horsemen, farmers, ranchers, livestock people are bigger gamblers than anybody in Las Vegas. We're gambling on the weather. We're gambling on livestock that lives, breathes, eats, dies, and when we have to go through those hardships, we've got to get on the other side of that valley. But the highs are so high that we're willing to go through that valley to get to that peak again.
Among Frank's best memories with horses is the thrill he and his family had of owning and showing the great Royal Santana. The 1971 sorrel gelding, sired by Pepe San and out of the Royal King daughter Royal Smart, earned $174,146 in cutting, plus his platinum, gold, silver, and bronze awards, as well as the NCHA Certificate of Ability.
When he would melt in the ground, it was like riding an elevator to a stop, and it was just, he would sink like this, and it was so easy to sit. And he was so effortless, the way he came across a cow. There was nothing violent about it, but it looked spectacular, but it even felt better.
Frank has earned numerous championships in different disciplines, including halter, horse racing, reining, cutting, working cow horse, and calf roping. Royal Santana and Miss Jim 45 were both inducted into the American Quarter Horse Hall of Fame in 2000 and 2012, respectively. In 2013, Frank was inducted into the AQHA Hall of Fame and is a past president of the AQHA. Beyond his many accolades, Frank counts among his most cherished life experiences the pure thrill of showing great cutting horses.
As I think back, some of the most memorable experiences I ever had were in that dirty old feedlot in Maricopa, Arizona. It was outdoors, and there was a fresh bunch of cattle, every single bunch. And we'd cut 24 hours a day. It was the most pure fun I think I've ever had competing on a cutting horse. It was as close to being a cowboy as you could get.
Frank currently serves as trustee for the NCHA Foundation, which maintains scholarship funds, provides crisis funding, and develops educational and animal welfare programs.
One of the dearest and nearest things right now in my life, other than my family and my grandchildren, is the work we're doing with NCHA's foundation, because I know how important the functions of the foundation can be to all of our members, and how good a job we do collectively, not just the trustees, but the whole membership in supporting that foundation is going to make a big difference on how we sustain our cutting horse life, our culture, our Western lifestyle. It's so important.
His exemplary commitment to horses and cutting have defined Frank Merril's life. Fittingly, Frank now adds the honor of induction into the National Cutting Horse Association's Member Hall of Fame to his list of achievements.
When I got the call that I had been inducted into or was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. I can't express how meaningful it is to be honored amongst a group that is really my family.